Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Level Up. We are back in the shed this afternoon for another cracking episode. This one is something that I'm incredibly passionate about at the moment, and I'm actually on a mission. If you haven't heard it on my other podcasts, I want to become one of Australia's leading healthy home builders. We're definitely taking healthy homes very seriously in our building business, spending a lot of time, a lot of effort researching, collaborating, talking to people. So the guest I've got with me today is actually someone that we've teamed up with. They've come on board. They're going to be one of our sponsors for this podcast because I believe in what their product and what they're doing. So I'm really looking forward to today's podcast because I think there's going to be a lot of education, a lot of knowledge shared. So a massive warm welcome to Nick from Highwood Products, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, Duayne. Thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be on here today. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. It'd be great.
Well, mate, I think like your product definitely plays a massive role in what I'm trying to achieve.
Sure.
And even just from the little bits and pieces that I put out on my socials, I can tell that there's a lot more education needed.
Sure. Yep.
So I guess to let you know about Nick's product, so Nick has developed an engineered LVL batten system for walls and roofs.
Yep, absolutely.
And let's face it, like it's a very crucial part if you're aiming to have a healthy or a passive home.
Spot on. So the primary function of the material is to provide ventilation and drainage through your wall cavity. It looks like a simple design, and it really is a simple product to achieve a relatively complex result. But basically what it does is it allows any moisture that builds up inside your building that passes through your vapor permeable membrane to be drained and ventilated away from your wall frame, which keeps your wall cavity dry, keeps the inside of the home dry, and stops any moisture-related issues that form in your wall system from having sort of long-term negative impacts on your home. So, I mean, nowadays, especially as that conversation has started to become more mainstream, people are much more aware of the fact that, mold, condensation, and any sort of associated issues with that can have long-term health impacts, can also have long-term impacts on the quality of your frame. All these things are important to be aware of and important to manage. So we think we've come up with a really simple solution to doing exactly that. Probably where it's different is it's a structural material as well. So, it'll free span across your studs, hold the weight of your cladding. Yeah.
I'm definitely keen to get into that more.
Sure.
But just to go back a little bit, because a lot of the questions I'm getting on my socials is people asking why.
Why?
Like, why are we even putting a cavity batten on our jobs?
Sure. So to give it a bit of an overview on the cavity space, basically moisture, the main reason that we've got vapor permeable membranes in our homes now, and it's starting to become a bit more of a conversation, is moisture accumulates in two different places. It can come out of the air from the outside of your building, but the more common example, and what most of the cavity systems that we're looking at today are addressing, is moisture that actually comes from inside the building.
It can be different depending on your climate zone.
Absolutely.
Stuff,
Yes, absolutely. It can vary climate zone to climate zone, but any moisture that passes through that membrane's got to have somewhere to go, right? So the vapor membranes are excellent at getting that moisture out and passing the moisture through, but if they've got nowhere to escape that wall cavity, essentially you've just got latent moisture that's sitting in between your cladding and your frame, which, unless ventilated, can cause mold.
Can we talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah.
Because you're very passionate about timber.
Yes. I've, since I left high school, been in the timber industry more or less. So worked in hardware. My first job out of high school was cooking the barbecue on a Saturday at my local hardware store, which is great. Sort of worked my way up into doing sales and sort of had a few builder accounts and that sort of thing. So got a good feel for the building industry and came to love it. Did a stint up at the Sunshine Coast in the sort of sales around the supply and install of solid timber flooring, solid and engineered timber flooring. So that was probably a really good insight into timber as it performs, particularly timber as it performs in moisture. So I'm sure I'm not sure if you guys have, when you install your floors, if you install your own floors or you have a flooring contractor come in, but either way, you'd be well aware of the fact that timber likes to take on and dissipate moisture. So that sort of taught me about timber and moisture as a concept, and making sure that's correctly managed. It also made me gave me a bit of an exposure to engineered timber as a concept and how stable it can be as a concept. And then spent a bit of time in wholesale engineered wood product in LVL as well. So I've always just sort of been in the timber industry and have really grown to love it. I mean, I think like we covered off earlier, I believe in timber as a material, as something that's got really long legs in our construction industry. I think it's beautiful. It's good to look at it. It's a good feature in homes. I like when people use, timber ceilings and timber floors and all that sorts of stuff. But I think I probably agree with what you said earlier. I think it's here to be used, and we're finding better ways to use it, which is an exciting time for us. So, but to answer your question, I've always sort of been exposed to it. And I think always will be. So that's...
And look, I'll put my hand up. Like, honestly, it's probably been 3 to 4 years since I sort of started questioning why we should be doing this and what we're doing. Like the last 2 years, it's our standard practice now, but it all comes back to building science, doesn't it? And I know, like in the States and Canada and Europe, building science is something that gets talked about a lot more. Like until recently, I haven't really noticed it being spoken about in Australia.
Yes.
And I guess for that reason, and because we're not taught that, like I just couldn't put it all together. And like I didn't really understand why, like a lot of the reasons I thought we had building wraps basically coming up through my trade and my time and becoming a builder, and then like no one ever explained to me what the building wrap was really for.
Sure.
And honestly, I thought it was more to do with insulation,
right,
than condensation or moisture prevention or control or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
But again, it's one of those things, like once you know it, you can't unknow it.
That's right.
And as soon as you start to understand that our homes create moisture from the humans that live in it, like cooking, your bathrooms with all the steam, like there's just, I always forget the number, like the average family of 4 produces like it's over 200 litres of moisture a week.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but
it's a lot.
It is a lot. It's a lot more than we think, definitely.
And so that has to go somewhere.
Yes.
And so I guess for people that are asking why we use a batten, if that moisture is coming through, and even if you are using the correct building wrap, like in the past and even now with claddings people are using, that moisture is stopping at the back of the cladding.
That's right.
So it might be coming through the wall wrap, but it's not going anywhere.
Spot on.
And so if it doesn't go anywhere, especially now that we've got to fill our walls, like it's code to insulate your walls, if people aren't using a mold resistant insulation, 9 times out of 10 that moisture is getting trapped and getting absorbed by the insulation.
Yep, absolutely.
So I don't know, it's probably a whole other topic and something we can talk about another day, but personally, knowing what I know now, I think Australia is heading towards similar to what Europe, Canada, New Zealand's been through, like the leaky home syndromes. Like we're going to have a lot of mold issues.
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned New Zealand. I think it's a really good sort of case in point as to certainly where I believe the industry is heading as an Australian industry, and for good reason, absolutely. But New Zealand is probably a great and a well-developed example of condensation, now very well managed in their sort of building practice. But if we wind back the clock quite a few years, they were relying on lightweight cladding started to become a bit more mainstream over there. Out of a traditionally sort of block and brick market, relying on the cladding system for your primary sort of weatherproofing layer. That led to water ingress issues.
Sorry to butt in, mate, but can we dive, like, everyone thinks cladding is a moisture layer, don't they?
To a certain extent, yes.
That's how I was taught.
Yep.
Like, do your cladding perfectly, sicker up holes, that's your prevention.
Yes, and look, it absolutely is a very, very significant part of your prevention, but it is sort of part and parcel with also weatherproof membrane, absolutely. So if we sort of take a walk through history, that was where we started. There was a water ingress issue, which was deemed the leaky homes crisis in New Zealand, which led to an enormous amount of rectification cost long term. The sort of overhaul from that was to go to airtight barriers, which were really effective at managing the moisture from a weather perspective. So any moisture coming in through rain or anything like that was very effectively managed, but almost to the extent that it was too effectively managed and ended up building sort of eskies or equivalent, you know?
Yeah, it's like going for a walk in the rain and putting a raincoat on, and like you sweat inside.
Exactly
like,
right. So it was excellent at keeping the rain out, but also excellent at keeping the moisture in. So again, vapor permeable membranes and vapor permeable weather resistant barriers started to become more prevalent. Again, they were excellent at doing what they were designed to do, which was passing moisture through. But the issue then became, where does that moisture go? So New Zealand has arrived at a very stock standard cavity ventilation across the board. And I believe that's coming here. And it certainly is starting to get reflected in our codes here and certainly our proposed codes here. And I think it's for a good reason. I think it's a really effective way to manage condensation.
Well, it's not just New Zealand. Like a lot of parts of Europe and America and Canada, that's their standard practice, isn't it? That they're building cavities on the outsides of their building.
Absolutely. So I think, what do they call it in the US? It's like a furring screen or rain screen system.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly right. So certainly in the northwest of the United States, it's very common practice to have a similar sort of system. Be it a vertical batten or a cross-hatched batten system. But either way, it's all achieving a very similar result, which is having an unencumbered air/moisture path in your wall cavity.
Yeah. And I guess it is a big rabbit hole. Like there's just so many parts to it, and it can be difficult to understand all of it. But like that's the basics of it, isn't it? Like you're controlling moisture.
Yep, absolutely.
You're by using a good quality building wrap such as Proclimer.
Yep.
You're preventing any moisture that's getting in through your facade, whether it's lightweight cladding or brick or block or whatever it may be, from getting into the building. But the moisture that's coming out from inside the building, you're allowing it to either dry or move around.
Yes.
And so something else I've learnt through my journey on this, the stack effect, which I'm sure you're aware of. Like the other big idea of having a cavity is to get air movement around the outside of the building. So obviously hot air rises, so creating a good cavity that's basically goes from the bottom of your cladding all the way up your walls, over the tops of your roof insulation and out through a vented ridge capping or some sort of roof ventilation.
Yes.
The more air movement you have, obviously that's going to help the wall stay dry as well.
Absolutely, and also dissipate heat, which is, it has its own set of sort of thermal benefits to your overall wall system. I mean, we have very hot summers. It gets hot sort of year round, but it's any way that air can pass over your building also helps just the overall thermal performance of your home. Yeah,
so your battens are designed to do that. Like
yes.
I'm not sure if you should be able to pick it up if you're listening to this. You really should go and watch on YouTube, because you'll see Nick's brought in a little sample today. But can you tell us a little bit about your battens, because like they're designed to help with all this air movement and moisture movement and that type of thing?
Yep, absolutely. So from a design perspective, and again, I'm sure if anyone is looking at it can see that it's quite a straightforward concept. But the material is LVL, structural LVL, with grooves, air channels / drainage vents on either side to allow an even distribution of ventilation across the wall. The top edge of the product is beveled to allow drainage away from the frame. So, and the bottom edge stays square basically to allow that moisture on the front side of the batten to drip off the bottom. So like a drip strip you would have with cladding, very similar sort of concept here. But it needs to allow that moisture a clear path out, down and out away from your frame. It allows a certain amount of airflow behind your cladding. Now that's, we've sort of been guided by legislation, certainly in New Zealand. So without going too technical, the amount of airflow in order to deem a cavity well vented and drained is 1,000 square millimeters per lineal meter, which is you can achieve by having multiple grooves that add up to about 1,000.
When you hear that number, you're like, holy shit, that's enormous, but it's square millimeters.
Square millimeters, that's right. So it's not. It sounds a lot more than it actually is.
Yeah.
but it's not nothing. So and you can achieve that obviously by having a total air movement across the batten. It's got to be evenly distributed. So you obviously don't have one area of the wall that's really well ventilated and another area that's not ventilated at all, which you can achieve by evenly distributing grooves on either side of the material. So our products all of our wall products achieve 2,000 square millimeters of ventilation, which will comply with certainly all of your upcoming ventilation requirements. And, exceeding that is also a good option basically for giving, as much airflow as you can.
The more the better.
It's great. So, right.
Not only is it helping with moisture management, it's also helping with the heating and cooling of the home.
Yes.
By getting that air movement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parts of this. So obviously Nick's here today to talk about his product. I'm going to be talking about this sort of thing a lot on my podcast from now on because it is a whole system. You've got to have the building wrap, you've got to have the battens, you've got to have cavity closers, you've got a vermin proof. There's a lot of parts to it to do it well. And we've definitely been getting better and better every job we've been doing over the last sort of 2.5 years. But one of the things I've noticed, Nick, on our jobs, and we haven't got a completed new build with Nick's product yet. We're very close to it. We're going to be starting one. We've got windows showing up on a job in about 10 weeks or so. So we will have a full high-end 3-story multi-million-dollar home that we'll be using this on and getting a really good finish. But up until I found you and your product, we've been using a CCA 20 mil batten.
Yep.
And even just using that, I can't believe the difference in our homes pre-plastering.
Yep.
We get the building wrapped up. The building has time to dry out and acclimatise. All the timber, we build lightweight. So, and the best example of that is a job that we've literally plastered in the last 3 weeks. It sat through all the rain we got in Queensland earlier this year, got absolutely saturated, and we were a little bit concerned about mould growing.
Yep.
But being able to get the roof on, use a ProClimate product, and then working on the outside of the home, getting all the batten on, getting all the cladding on, and then all the rough-in work happening on the inside. So it was sitting there for, it's a large home, so it was sitting there for a considerable amount of time. You can smell it.
Yeah.
There is no smell.
Yes.
It's being able to breathe while also being watertight.
Yes.
And then we moisture test all of our jobs now before we put any internal wall linings on.
Yeah.
But then even now that it's plastered, I feel like the house is performing better than our previous projects even now, and it's not even finished.
Well, there you go. Yeah, absolutely, it makes sense. Well, it would be.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've never realised how. I guess I'm probably taking more notice of it now, but especially through summers here in Queensland when we let's face it, we get lots of storms. We quite often get a lot of wet weather. I guess I didn't really take enough notice of that sort of misty smell in the jobs.
Yeah.
And now that it's not there, I'm like, man, this is far more, this is bigger than what I think.
Yes.
And so even just noticing that now, and again, that's why I'm on this mission to be one of Australia's leading healthy home builders.
Yep.
Where the homes we build, I never realised until obviously getting onto these cavity systems and things, how much our homes affect our health.
Yes.
And I know you're pretty passionate about that.
Absolutely. Look, they certainly do, and I think it's one of the things that's which is a very good thing that's now started to become a bit more of a conversation. Whether it's at a selection end or obviously you're something that you're promoting with your clients, but it's really important, and it's we spend a lot of time in our homes, and it's important that they are a healthy place to be.
Yeah. So back to talking about your product, you mentioned a couple of times it's structural.
Yes.
One thing I love about it is it's LVL.
Yes.
So its size and its straightness and all those types of things are amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
But like I said, I haven't used it yet, but I can already see the benefits of being structural. At the moment, using a 20 mil, we've got to make sure all of our framing's set out for our depending on the type of cladding we're using.
Yes.
To make sure that the batten's got full support behind it.
Yep.
Whereas yours is basically like putting another stud over the outside.
Exactly right. That was probably the main rationale for the product in the first place, was to do away with the need for a second structural provision in behind your ventilation batten. So LVL obviously has a unique set of mechanical properties that allow it to be, smaller primarily. So we've got a 50 and a 70 mil product, depending on wind region, that will span across either a 450 or a 600 frame. 50 millimeter will do mostly everything up to N3 on both sort of frame centers. But just that simple provision of not having to worry about, exactly like you say, frame layout, and allowing for a horizontal cross member to support a ventilated batten is a massive time saving. And that was really the reason that we sort of wanted to develop this, was to save time, have a one size fits all component that goes straight on the wall without too much extra rework.
Yeah. So what can it span? Like if you're running this vertically for weatherboard, let's say weatherboard cladding.
Yep.
How far can it span?
So we have a different product for weatherboard, which is a 42 or 35 runs vertically. That'll span 1350, so up to on a 2.7 wall, top plate, middle, bottom plate. That'll standard span across that. These ones are obviously designed to run horizontally, so 600 max spacing for all the wall battens.
Mate, I'm really excited about the vertical ones. Like the last probably 3 to 4 jobs that we've done, the way we're currently doing it, there has been an enormous amount of labour.
Yep.
And as much as the team try to get everything right and get everything set out during while we're stick framing to make sure we have solid stud work behind all the joins and all those types of things, you're always going back and putting timber in here, there and everywhere.
Yes.
The fact now that we can just go through, mark all our frames out, get all our junctions, all our priority studs in place, and then just space everything out at 450 centres, and then just come through and put our rows and nogs in.
Yep.
And this stuff, like when we come to doing this, we'll just be able to nail it top, bottom and centre.
Yep.
We'll screw it.
Yep.
Is just going to save enormous amounts of time and material.
Absolutely. And I think, so if we talk also about horizontal application, you're not necessarily guessing where your fasteners are going, because there's a straight run of batten all the way along your wall, which again, in terms of takes the guesswork out of your fixing method.
Yeah. Because you're also working with a company to supply fixings to these, aren't you?
Yeah. So as we've got a list of generic fixings that we supply for this. Basically, so normal fasteners out of your normal fastener array. But we also, we're looking at a few different screws from Simpson Strong Tie, which are collated screws. So they're basically part of their quick drive system to allow speed of install across the batten. So they're also really great, really good quality product.
Yeah, awesome. We use that gear a lot. So we've got a collated gun. So you'll have they got that now? Or that's something you're working on, the collated screw for these?
No, that's all ready to go. So we've got two, awesome, depending on whether it's timber or steel frame, 2 fasteners to go on either. So yeah, absolutely.
Unreal.
Yeah.
So mate, you've got a roof batten as well.
Yes.
And at this stage in my building business, when we're not going for passive house, so we're not putting the full wrap over the roof and those types of things, but I'd really like your batten. Everyone else I've seen having to do counter battens.
Yes.
But you've developed a batten that you only basically need the one batten.
Absolutely. So look, it was, I'd say that 2 parts for the wall batten and exact same sort of rationale for the roof batten. Wall batten, we were trying to simplify needing a structural sub provision for your ventilation material, and also trying to simplify on a counter batten method. So obviously and I'm sure that many of your listeners are well aware of the counter batten process, but having a vertical and horizontal counter batten to achieve an air gap in behind your cladding, it's excellent for ventilation. Absolutely, it does a great job of ventilating.
Just to explain it for the roof, because again, a lot of the listeners are still very new to this and asking lots of questions. But typically on a roof scenario, you have to use a counter batten, don't you?
In order to achieve ventilation over your membrane, absolutely, you've got to have a counter batten. Now, in this instance, what that sort of is, you have a packer type batten to provide your air gap up from your roof, and then a horizontal batten like you would have a normal roof batten. This sort of, combines them. So you've got your ventilation built into your roof batten. Again, it's a structural LVL, so it'll free span across your rafters, as a normal roof batten would. But also it gives you that ventilation.
Yeah, so the bottom of the batten has all the grooves in it.
Yes.
So by just planting it on top of the membrane, any moisture that's traveling down the roof can still track through all those
That's right.
cavities.
So instead of having a beveled edge, obviously because it is actually in a situation where the pitch of the roof will allow your moisture to fall away, it just goes straight on, very much like you'd pitch a tiled roof. Similar install, you put your membrane down and your battens straight on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's definitely so many benefits to using it. One of the ones that it's been a little bit controversial on some of the posts I've been doing recently on my socials, talking about the treatment.
Sure.
And look, this is, I guess I've been lucky, but I'll put my hand up and say, like, this is actually something I wasn't aware of a few years ago. I've only become aware of it in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, but a lot of membranes react with certain treatments that if they come in contact with them. So
It certainly can.
and look, I'm just lucky. I reached out to some guys down Victoria that have been doing this for years when I was getting started with it. And they told me the best product to use was CCA Timber, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's pressure treated, isn't it, CCA? Yes. So the CCA isn't reactive to the building wrap. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have put LOSP or other treatments against their building wrap. You're using a waterborne product, aren't you?
Correct. Yep.
And what sort of treatment level does that get you?
So it gives you a H3, a full H3. So this material is robust externally. Now, obviously, it's not in an external application, but it's a H3, a fully certified H3 process, waterborne. So you mitigate your reactivity issues. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, a H3 is important for us in terms of longevity. I mean, it's a structural material. It is in a moisture environment. We want to bulletproof it against anything moisture related. So H3 treatment is excellent for that. But we also don't want it to react with anything that's underneath it. So we've elected to use waterborne treatment across our range, which has served us well. And it's also, it's a really good quality treatment process, which we're confident in.
I'd imagine that's better for the environment as well, isn't it?
Look, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so on that, a lot of people have been telling me that I don't need to be using a treated batten, and I argue with them on this. My personal opinion is, like, a lot of what we're talking about is to do with moisture.
Yes.
So there is moisture in that cavity.
That's right.
And look, I don't know if it's people that haven't had enough experience in the industry or maybe haven't seen what happens to timber when it fails from moisture. Like, untreated timber doesn't need a lot of moisture to fail.
Yes.
So to me, it's a no-brainer. Like, if you're using a timber product in a cavity that is dealing with moisture, it should be treated.
Look, I completely agree. Particularly, I mean, I can speak certainly with regard to our structural material being an LVL. If there's any, and timber and water of timber of any description and water are not the best of friends, as we all know, but any latent moisture that may dwell in the cavity. I mean, we obviously with the shape and profile of the material, or I'd probably broaden that out to any ventilated cavity for that matter, whether it be it our product or any other way to achieve cavity ventilation, it is a far more ideal circumstance for timber to be in because it's got airflow, right? That is a much better situation for it to be in. Having said that, we might have a wet week, wet month, for example, where that moisture can't fully dissipate. I personally would like especially a structural timber, to be galvanized against that. To be treated, to be H3 treated, to be robust in that circumstance.
Well, my theory is, like, if we want to truly build healthy homes, we have to be building buildings that are lasting hundreds of years, not 30 or 40 or 50.
Yep.
And to me, an untreated piece of timber won't last that long in a cavity. And again, I go down all these rabbit holes. I drive myself crazy. Like my wife reckons she can hear me thinking when I'm sleeping. But um, like you've only got to look at any timber product that you may have outside your home. Like even if it's not in a fully wet environment, but like a piece of outdoor furniture or I guess I've got some examples around my place. Like we live on acreage, we've got a lot of gardening tools, rakes and things. Like anything that is left outside deteriorates quite quickly. And even if it's not getting wet all the time, like just different times of the year, like you think about it, you go outside and you got a bit of moisture on your grass, bit of dew or something. Like there's always moisture around.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, to me, it's a no-brainer. Like considering that it's in a cavity where we're dealing with moisture that's coming out through the wall and moisture that is coming in through the external claddings, to last the test of time, which to me should be hundreds of years, it needs to be treated.
Absolutely. And treatment technology has also come a very long way. And those processes are getting better and better. And to me, it's not a major step to make to sort of, like I said, I use the word galvanized, but to future proof that material, I believe it's worth doing, and certainly something that we've it's core to our product is having a robust H3 treatment across the board.
Yeah, I'm probably putting you on the spot here, but like I know LVLs have been around for a very long time. Like what is the life expectancy of an LVL in the right environment?
Depending on it, so these have a lifetime. So depending on it really depends on manufacturers and those sorts of things. But LVL, if detailed correctly, should last for a very, very long time.
Yeah, like if it's in the right environment, it's kept out of moisture. I would imagine it's a piece of timber. It's going to last forever.
Yes. Look, it does depend on a few different factors, but the detail around it and how it's installed is very important. But especially now that LVL, a lot of LVL components are becoming much more popular. It's certainly something that needs to be treated correctly. But if it is, it should last for a very long time.
Yeah, I know sustainability is a word that gets thrown around a lot these days. Like, are your battens sustainably made?
Absolutely. So look, we have been very selective about the origin of the raw material. To do with sustainability as far as forestry, all those types of practices are important to us. But LVL as a concept is a very sustainable way to make timber products. So again, I would give a very brief crash course in laminated materials. But
go feel like I'm sure our listeners will love this. Like if they're anything like me, like I'd really like to know about the products I'm using. So go for
sure.
gold, mate.
So a way an LVL is made. So we personally don't actually manufacture the LVL. We process the raw material into the shape that you see there. But an LVL is made by, probably the best way to describe it is imagine a giant pencil sharpener. So whole logs go into an enormous pencil sharpener, lathe sort of setup. And basically the veneer is peeled from the log as it spins. So in terms of recovery of resource, you get an excellent return from the amount of log that's used, which is in itself is a great practice. Again, in that space, technology in recovery of the resource itself has come leaps and bounds. And your leading manufacturers of LVL around the world are trying to find ways to make the resource recovery side of it as good as possible, which I think is fantastic. I think it's a really good way to use timber, which is in itself a renewable resource. I think the manufacturing of LVL is a really good way to sort of recover that. So there's that side of things. It's all plantation grown, so it's all sustainably grown. But absolutely, timber as a whole is a sustainable material. It's a true sustainable, which is something that I think is now getting its time in the sun, which is fantastic. I think timber as a whole is sort of starting to get a bit more of a mainstream focus. I've started to notice a lot more timber in commercial construction, and the whole concept of mass timber and crossland timber and all those sorts of things are starting to become more prevalent, which I think is really good.
I love it, man. It really excites me. To me, look, nothing against religion. I'm not really a religious person, never been to church and things, but I do believe that everything on this planet's put here for a reason.
Yep.
And there is certain types of trees that have been put here for us to build things with.
Yep.
And so like having that plantation grown timber, like that's what it's for.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like it's no good for anything else. Like it's, but it excites me that they've been able to, like LVL really, if they didn't use that timber to produce LVL, it's pretty useless for other things. Like they make it structural by the way they laminate it all together, don't they?
Well, so the veneers are graded themselves. So every log that's peeled has a, the veneers themselves have a structural or a density rating. But it is an amazing concept to think that if you peel something apart, lay it together and re-glue it, it comes back as a strong, versatile building material. To me, that's something that's always fascinated me.
Yeah.
I personally am of the belief that LVL as a raw material category has got a lot further to go in our industry. I mean, one of the cornerstones for us, our business sort of tagline is timber reimagined, which is what we're trying to sort of go for, is actually taking a material that's an excellent, versatile building material and turn it into things that serve different purposes.
Because of how much they recover, like I've done a few trips down to the Hine Tumbarumba sawmill and a few different factories. I've been to an LVL factory and the Excellent factory, all those. And what excites me is the minimal waste.
Yep.
Like because an LVL, like when you think of just normal stick framing, like if you want a 6 meter piece of timber, you've got to get probably an 8 or 9 meter straight piece of tree.
Yes.
To be able to get that out of. So the old fashioned way, I guess, that we've been building, where we've always wanted the longest lengths of timber we can get, isn't the most efficient way or the most efficient use of our forestry. But like when you consider that LVL can take any size tree and recover so much of that tree, and then by gluing it and laminating it all together, as you said, produce it back into a structural member that's probably stronger than where it started.
Well, and into very long straight lengths. It's incredible. It's incredible. So look, we as a business are pretty adamant on the fact that it's got long legs in our construction industry, and that's already sort of taking shape as it currently stands. But but sustainability, it certainly is a very good component of the material itself.
So, mate, we've covered a lot already. So we've talked about the waterborne H3 treatment. I actually wrote down some notes today because I wanted to make sure we didn't forget anything, because this product really does excite me. We've talked about the ventilated cavity and why it's important to have a cavity batten system. We've talked a little bit about condensation. We might just touch on that a little bit more.
Sure.
So condensation can come both ways, can't it?
That's right.
No.
So probably the two analogies I would use. So certainly for your hot, humid climates, you imagine like a can of soft drink, a cold can of soft drink out in the hot summer's day. You imagine the condensation that forms on the outside of that can. That's to do with moisture coming from the air that's sort of beating on the outside of that material. So I would liken that to a cooled, air-conditioned home. So humidity in the air will beat on the outside of your membrane. Same sort of thing in the hot, humid climates. In the cooler climates, it's more to do with moisture vapor that is formed inside the home. Yeah.
So either way, you've like in any climate, you've got moisture getting into that cavity and sitting there.
That's right.
Yeah, and I guess that leads us into another one I want to talk about, which is incoming changes to the NCC.
Yep.
So the Australian National Construction Code.
Yep.
Are you able to update us a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So look, it has been a little bit of a I've heard a lot of sort of mixed opinions about that as a concept. Certainly, as far as we see it, the NCC for 2025, which is currently sitting as proposed, was delayed. So it was meant to roll out a little bit earlier in the year. It's been delayed, but at this very moment in time, it is the NCC for 2025 will proceed once it's finalised. We've talked about pausing the NCC from that point on. Our understanding is that the NCC will, once 2025 is rolled out, from that point onwards, we'll see a pause up until mid-2029 is the current state of play. The proposed changes that are within that, so certainly some stuff around energy efficiency. Probably the one that relates most to the cavity ventilation and condensation side of things is for climate zone 6 through 8, which is the southern climates. So we have a little bit in Queensland, but most of it sort of is primarily New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, and the southern part of Western Australia. Cooler climates, more or less. So 6, 7, and 8 will require a vapor permeable membrane on a lightweight frame.
So these are coming in this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're currently sitting as proposed, but when that is finalised, the changes are around climate zone 6, 7, and 8 requiring a drained vented cavity and requiring a vapor permeable membrane, among other things. But those are certainly, as far as it relates to condensation in your walls, those are a major component of that.
Yeah. I'll just apologise. It's absolutely blowing a gale outside the shed today. You might be able to hear a bit of the wind noise, but because you've clarified it for me, because I know, although I don't watch a lot of media or listen to it, I have heard a lot of talk only in the last month or two that the changes are being put on hold.
Yep.
And so I thought it was all the changes.
Yep.
But from what my understanding from talking to you and some other people is that, yeah, this is something that's happening. And very soon.
Yes, and look, it's something also that's been flagged as important. So, look, our understanding is certainly that 2025, once finalised, will roll ahead. But probably more broadly, it's something that we as an industry have recognised as an important addition to our construction code. So, look, we obviously have builders throughout the country that are adopting cavity ventilation as a concept, as a best practice measure. It's something that people are more and more starting to realise that is, it's a good way to build. It's a very easy way, relatively speaking, to dissipate moisture in your home. So we've recognised that it's a thing, and I think that's a really good step for our code as well.
100%, mate. And look, to be honest, I'm definitely down a rabbit hole with it now, and I think it's an absolute no-brainer. Like every single structure that is built should have a cavity system. Like once you understand why it's there, how it works, and probably for me, the biggest thing getting my head around was just breaking it was literally breaking 25 years of the industry and knowledge that I'd been taught and learnt and been to seminars, and understanding that our cladding systems are not our waterproof layer. I know even just as an apprentice, my employer just drummed it into me, like getting all our cuts tied around flashings and over roofs and things, and like really trying hard to make our cladding watertight. And I think back now, like that was awesome. It taught me good quality and things, but it was never ever going to stop all the moisture getting in. And especially back 28 years ago, like we were using the shitty old foil and we weren't doing it anywhere near as good as what we probably should have been. But one thing I really wanted to see what your opinion on was, like, I'm a big believer in the building code should be our bare minimum.
Yes.
Like it shouldn't be something that builders are trying to aim for. Like it should be a bare minimum that we're trying to exceed and do better than. What's your opinion on that?
Look, I agree. I have to say, I've in recent times, particularly around the new stuff that's starting to be proposed. So we look at energy efficiency and then condensation management. I think I was personally felt quite good about the fact that those things are starting to get recognised. I think it's a really good step. But absolutely, I think we should always be striving for best practice, regardless of where we sit in the industry. It's for a lot of people, for many, your home it's not only a major investment, it's also where you spend most of your time. It's where you sleep, it's where you eat. All those things, for me personally, I think that if I had my hands on the levers as far as what was going into the production of my home, I'd want that to be as good as it could be, within reason. Now, I think that the code absolutely reflects that and is working towards reflecting that always, which I think is great. But absolutely, I agree that we should always be striving for best practice regardless.
Yeah, and I think that was a big driver for me. Like now that I know what I know, I'm doing it for multiple reasons. But the big driver for me going down this rabbit hole and learning more about this was to do with health.
Yep.
Like, and just starting to get that understanding that the homes that my building business is building play an enormous role on the health of the occupants that move into that house.
Yes.
And obviously now that's coming out in our building code, like it's pretty obvious that there's signs out there that our homes are affecting the health of people that live in them.
Yes.
Especially with mold.
Yes.
And obviously the main contributor to mold is moisture.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I am pretty concerned knowing what I know now about the next probably, I don't know, 5 to 15 years, I think. I do feel we're going to see a lot of homes that do suffer from a lot of mold and that type of thing. So I do think as builders, like I take it very personally. I believe it's my responsibility to make sure that I deliver my clients the best possible thing that I can. And now understanding how much it's affecting their health, it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm using the best products. I'm reaching out to people like yourself. I'm understanding more about the product you're using, like you're making, where it comes from, how it's made, how it performs.
Yeah.
So that I can make sure the product that I'm putting in my house is the best possible product I can use.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm really excited to see where you guys end up.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely, I encourage all my listeners that listen to this podcast to reach out to the guys. So where can they find you, mate? What's the best way?
Look, we're in hardwares around Australia. So if you want to contact your local timber and hardware business, they should be able to give us a call and we'll be able to figure something out.
Yeah, but like if they want to go online and look you up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So our everything's Highwood Timber across the board. So our website is highwood.com.au. Highwood Timber on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. We're going to ramp his Instagram up, guys. We'll get some more shit going on there.
Absolutely.
This next job that we're doing, we're going to be using all the wall products. So we'll definitely be doing some video and talking about a lot. So stay tuned for that. But, mate, I really thank you for taking the time out to come on and have a chat about the product.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
It's definitely something that I want to see in more jobs and see more people using. I'm really excited about it. I can see the value it's going to add to my jobs.
Yep.
Just one last thing before we wrap it up that I had on my notes here that we didn't get to. Using a Batten system also helps your R value, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So there's sort of two concepts in that space: still air and moving air. But either way, if you've got air itself is a good insulator. So air layers in any sort of context add to your thermal performance of your wall. Still air is actually better than moving air, but in order to keep the cavity dry, you need the air to be moving. So it's a bit of I suppose, double-edged sword in that sense. But either way, it certainly improves the thermal value of your wall. Probably what I would use as, again, an analogy in that is imagine like a puffer jacket. So, we think about the air sort of pockets around a puffer jacket, a very similar concept for an insulated wall. Obviously, we've got the bats to provide insulation, but an air gap is also just a really effective way to bolster that performance. So, absolutely it can.
It's exciting to see where it's going to end up. Like when you consider the role that technology is playing in our industry now, across the board, like in like forestry and manufacturing, I imagine like even the gluing process and all those types of things. Like,
oh, absolutely. It's the technology in all those industries is growing at exactly the same rate. We're the lucky recipient of the finished product, which comes in a very nice, neat setup. But it's incredible to see how it's made, and I think more broadly, all the technology that's going into timber now, and the fact that timber's starting to get a bit of a look in the commercial world, I think is also really exciting. I mean, you don't have to look too far outside of Australia to see, and even within Australia, I was down in Victoria recently and saw an opening to a tunnel which has been built out of CLT, which is incredible. big, sort of commercial infrastructure projects that are now starting to incorporate, mass timber as a concept. I think in general that's excellent. I mean, from a carbon standpoint, it's fantastic as far as embodied carbon in the production. Yeah, I mean, for a long list of reasons, I feel like it's an exciting sort of material that we're just now starting to get full exposure to, which is great.
Awesome, mate. Well, yeah, look, like I said, the other exciting thing is I've seen where you guys end up with this. Like, I know you, I'm sure you won't stop at these first few products. There'll be more Highwood LVL products coming, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It's we're certainly trying to push the envelope with what we can come up with here. But yeah, absolutely, there will be more.
Love it. Well, mate, look, thanks very much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time, guys. Get behind the guys at Highwood. If you're building healthy homes already or passive homes and you're using cavity batten systems, like seriously, this product is an absolute no-brainer. Like I said, it's the best one that I've come across. I believe in it a lot. You've taken care of everything that we need to try and deal with. And it's off the shelf. So, guys, get behind them. As always, look, make sure you go to the duaynepearce.com website, purchase your merch, get behind the Level Up movement, and continue to make this Australia's #1 construction podcast. We'll see you on the next one. All right, guys, I want to introduce you to a really exciting new product that I believe is going to play a massive role in Australia building healthier homes. As you all know, I am extremely passionate about healthy homes, and I'm doing a lot of research and putting a lot of time and effort into making sure my construction business is leading the way when it comes to building healthy homes here in Australia. We've teamed up with the guys from Highwood Timber. Highwood Timber are pioneering condensation management with their high-flow ventilated LVL batten system. High-flow battens give builders a stronger, straighter and smarter way to create a ventilated cavity behind cladding and underneath roofs, without compromising on structural performance. While tackling condensation to improve building health and ease of installation, Highwood battens are built to perform. When it comes to dealing with condensation and ventilation, high-flow battens will help you create continuous ventilated cavities behind all your cladding and underneath your roof sheeting. They reduce condensation risk and support healthier, longer-lasting buildings. Highwood Timber battens are also in alignment with the proposed NCC condensation management requirements, as well as passive house ventilation requirements. Being an engineered LVL product, they are stronger, straighter, and more dimensionally stable than a solid material such as pine. This helps resist warping, twisting, and shrinkage, ensuring more consistent installs, less prone to splitting than solid timber. Highwood Timber battens are precisely manufactured, meaning that your installation will be faster and easier than other products on the market. The part that I like the most about these battens are they are H3 treated for long-term protection against decay and termites. They use a waterborne H3 treatment which reduces reactivity with membranes and adhesives when compared to LOSP. These are the exact battens that you want to be using on your homes and your builds if you are considering building healthier homes or passive homes. Check them out, Highwood Timber Products.